So, last episode, I talked about the fact that the mechanism for engaging the drive belt was missing and I really didn't need it. But there's part of that mechanism is just there for tensioning the drive belt. And thinking about it more, I figured I'm at least going to need a tensioner. So the tensioner is this triangular plate with the two pulleys that's pulled back by a spring over here. So this puts tension on the drive belt. And if we take a look from the exploded view, a closer look at it, we can see this plate here, basically triangular, with a point for attaching the spring. It also has incorporated the belt guides. So I figured I can order the pulleys off of eBay, and I can try and manufacture this plate. So here's the beginnings of our belt tensioner. Started off with a 1/4-inch steel plate, and we marked the points with a punch and where the holes are going to go with a punch, then traced out the pattern. And we cut it and drilled a couple of holes. This hole here is going to be for the spring. This tab will be bent at 90 degrees downward. There's going to be another hole here to put in a bolt for one of the pulleys. Second pulley goes over here. And this is for the 1/2-inch hole for the pivot. And So now I just have to wait for the pulleys to arrive in the mail to figure out the best way to attach them, and then we can get the whole thing installed. Well, a couple of parts have arrived. So I've got my 2 pulleys, a spring, and I'm creating some keepers, some belt keepers. And what I'm doing is I'm tapping a hole in the back of the keeper, and I'm using this low friction material to act as the backing of the keeper. So if the belt rubs against it, it'll slide quite easily. My plate is done, so I'm going to finish the last keeper and then put it all together and then take it apart to paint. Alright, so I'm ready to put everything together. When I'm ready to put it together after painting, I'll use some Loctite on the nuts. Make sure they stay in place. So once I have it finished, I'll tighten these lock nuts down and trim them off. I also think I'm going to trim off my angle here and move the hole up higher for the spring to fit into. I don't need that much hanging down. And so I'm going to take this apart, get it all painted, and then start working on the additional bracket to put on the deck to attach to the other side of the spring, and also to hold another bracket for the lifting mechanism. That'll be next. So I've got the belt tensioner all painted and installed. So you can see how it pivots back and forth, taking up tension on the belt. So the belt will run from about here. This is where the PTO sits. This acts as a belt keeper for the PTO. And then it'll run through this pulley, then through this one, into the main drive, then back this way. The holes for the spring, I've got 2 holes for the springs, and I've created a plate with, again, 2 holes attached for the spring to line up with. And this plate is also has a cable tensioner, and that is going to be for the lift mechanism. So what I'm going to do now is temporarily run the cable through so you can see how the lift mechanism works. This mower doesn't have a nice scissor lift system. What it did have was a cable that was pulled by this mechanism here that's activated by the large handle here that goes back and forth and locks into place. It lifts both the back end and the front end. And the solid cable used to run through a series of pulleys and guides and come through to the front of the mower deck, where it pulled down here and would basically close the gap here that would be lifting the mower. I replaced this with a clutch cable, so I've had to make a couple of stops, and then the cable runs over to a tensioner so that if the cable ever develops some stretch or slack, I can increase the tension with this bolt here. And I have a bolt with a hole drilled through it that will fit inside this mechanism here to basically hold on to the cable. So really all that's left to do now is to wait for the 61-inch belt to come in the mail, and it's going to have to wait until spring for me to put it on the tractor and make the final adjustment for the length of this cable, such that when it's resting on the ground, it has a little bit of slack, and then when this is pulled tight, it effectively lifts the front of the mower off the ground. So all I really need to do now is just remove the plate, clean it up, give it a good primer and a coat of paint, and then that'll be done, and the spring will have to be installed. But I'll wait until I get the belt, because I'm going to have to remove this mechanism to get the hooks of the spring in. As well, I've got to remove the pulleys just to get the belt on. And then so once the belt is on, the spring is in, I can mount it onto this and tighten everything down. And then it's a matter of installing it on the tractor, and in the springtime I'll shoot a quick video of using it to mow some pasture. Thanks. Next up on tap is going to be one of these two. I still don't know which one. It's either going to be the 56 3 horsepower Johnson or the 1951 Johnson 5 horse. We'll see.